Welcome, Miko. You look so lovely and tanned. I gather you've been having a great time around the world at all the conferences. I was wondering if you could tell me what you think about what's happened this year in the crypto blockchain world.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. I think that people make a big deal out of token economics, right? And there are people that, have advanced degrees in economics and things of that nature. But I think it comes down very simply, right? Which is that really at the base of every token economy is an economy, right? And so really the question becomes like, what are people actually doing fundamentally with this, right? So the thing that I think is happening is that really what you want is you want a base economy where people are buying tokens for their use. And when people say, oh, Bitcoin has no use, it does have use. It's just the scale of the use is not really as high as people would necessarily expect. The reality becomes that, if tokens don't have a fundamental base economy based on utilization, then the problem with that is that then they're unable to set price targets. Right. So then the entire crypto economy becomes a purely speculative economy. Exactly. Because what you really need is price targeting. You need the ability to say, based on these performance numbers, you are going to be valued in such and such a way. Right. So the ability to do that, I think, will probably emerge in 2019. And I think that there will be, it's really ultimately about who's lifting, right? The thing that's really amazing is how many companies were dragging, right? So if you really think about this from a perspective of things like, airplanes and runways, it's really the equation is lift versus drag, right? So economic lift is basically, people who are generating value, and economic drag are people that are essentially removing value, right? And so, I think right now the removers of value are winning, and so there's more drag than there is lift. But the thing that's really interesting about it is once the market settles to a lower value, then the chance of lifting increases, right? Because you're lifting from a lower place, right? So really, in a sense, if you create these extremely large market cap things like a Tezos or these kinds of huge things, they're so heavy. So it's hard to lift them even higher, right? So the thing that's nice will be to see lots of respectably priced coins that are each generating economic value. Now, obviously, the ones that are not generating value, they'll all eventually kind of go to zero. But I believe that there will be examples of crypto economies that are functional, that are actually increasing in value as a function of decreasing supply and increasing demand together.
Great. And what do you think about Bitcoin? Have you got any thoughts about that? Because I know at the beginning of this year we were overwhelmed by the sheer numbers of people forcing their way into the events. And most of them knew nothing about crypto or Bitcoin. So it was shocking to me because I've been following it for so many years. But that seems to have died down now. Can you give us your overview of that?
My feeling is this, right, which is that in a way what happens with speculative markets is that they create, essentially they tend to really curve, right? So this one kind of hockey sticked quite a bit. And the thing that I think happened was, quite premature. But the thing that I think is fascinating about Bitcoin is that it's tested, right? And so the thing that's interesting to me is when you store value, you're really storing a total amount. So a test at 100 billion is different from a test at 200 billion, which is different from a test, right? So the thing that's intriguing about what's happened is that it's been tested at various levels, right? So now that it's been tested, it's actually proven at those levels. Now the thing that's really interesting now is that, what we've demonstrated that it can, the value can come out quickly, right? Which is kind of makes people nervous. But, to me, the thing is once it's proven, it means that, it can easily go back again, right? Because, it's trustworthy from a cryptographic perspective, right? Meaning that nobody's cracked Bitcoin, it's even at the greatest scales.
And I guess that what that means is it's going to be integrated even more into the incumbent traditional investment platforms, do you think?
Yeah, I think it is highly likely. I mean, one of the things that we're seeing is the emergence of the security token offering, and obviously asset-backed and regulated crypto assets will be probably a very predominant theme for 2019. So.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to just that sort of groundwork, where everyone's just working on building the ecosystem rather than all the froth that happened earlier this year. So, because I think that there's definitely, it's part of where we're going, right?
Yeah, and it is. It's terrific to be grounded because, when you look at a phenomenon like open source software, it took 30 years to really convert, I would call it 90% of commercial software into open source by terms of lines of code. Yeah. So if you really look at that phenomenon in open source money, expecting it to all of a sudden overnight, become fully functional compared to things that have had thousands of years to develop, obviously it's premature. So, we do need to build. We need to build and ship and add value.
Build, ship, and add value. That's what we'll think of for 2019. Thank you so much, Miko. Looking forward to the panel.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.